Good afternoon, everyone. Anurag this side. As we all know, India is witnessing a steep rise in the number of cases of coronavirus. Life, as you all are aware of, has taken a very sharp turnaround for everyone. In the education sector too, virtual learning has begun since lockdown. In these unique circumstances, we, students of GD Goenka World School, are here to discuss whether should school reopen post-lockdown or not. In today's session, our panelists with us are Kshitij Verma, Adinath Mukherjee, Aryan Sethi, Alishba Sadat, Mahi Yadav, and Sehman R. Shah. But before we begin, let me apprise you with the rules for their panel discussion. Each and every panelist will be given 2 to 3 minutes to speak his point. At no point, arguments, cuss words, slangs will be entertained by any of the panelists. After everyone has spoken, each and every panelist would be given an opportunity to cross-question another. So, now I call upon Kshitij Verma to share his views regarding the topic. Kshitij.
Okay, so COVID-19 has made a deep effect on our country's economy. Not just it, but the main school system. Children are missing their daily school hours. Although the system has provided online learning, but the main issue is that the tutor really doesn't know what the is the child mentally present or not. Though we cannot blame children for it, as it wasn't their choice of missing classes. And due to intensive poverty in our country, we cannot afford more loss of education. But as a fact that life is more important than education, I would say that the children have more stronger immune system than people in ages of 25s and 50s, and hence there is almost negligible risk on them. As mentioned above, India is at the other side of poverty, and not every parent could afford a smart device for their children, where a parent is hardly paying fees for school in a situation that it is difficult for them to earn money sitting at home. Nominal safety issues could still be taken to protect the child from COVID 19, such as using social distancing and sanitizing where needed. Ultimately, children are the twilights of future, and I'm pretty sure that any government would not risk their lives and decide a meaningful day of limit for children until the effects of COVID-19 becomes a little less concentrated. Over to you, Anurag.
Yeah, thank you, Kshitij, for sharing those valuable opinions. Now, I'd like to call Adinath to share his opinion regarding the topic.
I'm speaking about an increasingly challenging time of disruption and change in our day to day life. A time of fear for those who have to risk their life by stepping out, even during lockdown, to, fe- to fend for themselves and their family. A time of grief for a number of people who have lost their loved ones to the virus. Yet, now is not the time to relax and let go. It's the time to step forward and take charge. We are talking about a virus here, and I'm sure that I need not reiterate before you that a virus is a pathogenic, parasitic organism that isn't even classified as being alive. Since a cell is an essential part of our definition of life, I would like to point out that a cell does not have a cell membrane, no metabolism, no respiration, and cannot replicate outside of the living cell, though it can mutate and replicate very fast inside the living cell. So, how do you suppose such an organism can eradicate with ease? No, sir, it cannot be eradicated. So we have to learn how to live with it and readjust to a new normal. Since India has a high rate of poverty, there are many households who would not be in the position to afford virtual education for their children. Many of them may not even have access to smartphone, let alone be PCs and laptops. A study by SNL Global Networks, which had inputs from school heads and education experts, suggests measures to be taken in order to make education institutes virus free. They have suggested various ways in which schools can ensure the safety of children within the school premises after lockdown. All schools must go through mandate prepared by them before reopening their institution, but reopen they must. To conclude, I would like to give an example of Switzerland, where the number were much more than India at a certain point of time. Yet, the schools have reopened some time ago with no negative consequences whatsoever. And I am sure our nation can follow the same suit and do the same.
Yeah, thank you, Adinath, for
Over to
sharing
you.
those value. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Adinath, for sharing those valuable opinions. Now, I'd like to call upon Aryan to share his views regarding the topic. Aryan.
In my point of view, not only India, many schools across the world are drifting towards online teaching. The current pandemic has pushed educational institutions to use the online platform to complete their syllabus. This is not really a desirable change as not everyone has equal access to digital resources which are required for this. To add on, I would claim that a student like to waste more time than study online. There are many distractions online. I mean, how can we expect to focus on academics when things like internet, chat room, and social media are just a click away? It's like asking a kid to sit in a one corner in a room full of toys. Now isn't that impossible? Thus, I feel that normal school should continue post lockdown. Over to you, Anurag.
Yeah, thank you, Aryan, for sharing those opinions. Now, I'd like to call upon Alishba to share her opinion regarding the topic.
I strongly believe that the resumption of the classes would definitely put education back on track. There would be no wastage of time or delay in the completion of college degrees or the students who are at the end of their school year. But considering the infected cases of the COVID-19 and the rapid spread of it, the danger has not subsided yet. So, for the time being, all the semester exams has been postponed until further notice, so there is no clarity whether they will conduct the exams through online mode. However, there's besides, even though the academics has completely shifted to an online platform and tries to avoid delays, not all students can be benefited from this. Students living in area where there is poor internet connection can lose their focus, and even if the exams are being conducted online, not all places in India have online examination centers. So consequently, those students would have to go to nearby city or states, and it would reveal them to the same danger. I would like to quote that a girl named Devika, a class 10 student from the southern part of India, has recently committed suicide by setting herself ablaze near her house. And the reason for this is that she felt isolated that the rest of her classmates were able to attend the class, and she felt that the lack of a smartphone would would disturb her studies. So I would like to say, even if the school and the colleges wants to remain shut, there needs to be a very inclusive idea about how the academia will not only help the cope of COVID-19, but also the less fortunate section of the society. We can take some precautions. For example, teachers, staff, and students can wear gloves and masks. Thermal scanners can be installed in the school. Only two students are allowed to sit on a three-seater, and CCTV cameras can be installed to make sure that the social distancing rules are being followed. Also that schools can aid students by staggering their fee payment or in some cases waiving them off. Over to you, Anurag.
Yeah, thank you, Alishba, for sharing those valuable opinions. Now, I'd like to call upon Sehman to share his views regarding the topic. Sehman.
Yeah, so as a result, education has changed dramatically with the rise of e-learning, and now teaching is taken on digital platforms. So research suggests that online learning has been shown to increase the retention of information and takes less time. So I think that online classes should continue till the situations get under control, and then we have to wait for the vaccines to come in, and the distribution chain will also take its time. So the teachers are capable enough to teach online, and we trust our school faculty and their capabilities, and we know their contribution towards the online classes. So this is not the situation to go out even for an adult. So how parents can send their children to school. And if I talk about parents, even if the teachers are not aware what the students are doing behind the camera, the parents are. And they are under observation of the parents, and also if the school is trusting that students can come to school and follow the instructions, then you should also trust their sincerity, and the lack of attention can happen in the classroom also, and they can be concentrated in online classes too, depends on the student. So it is our duty to stay safe and to be at our home, because there's nothing important in our life. And at last, I want to say to the speakers who are speaking in the favor of the topic that I agree with you that school should open, as this is the basic part of our life. But for that, we need a vaccine for everyone to make us secure. But without the vaccine, it is not possible. Anurag.
Yeah, thank you, Simon. Now, I'm calling upon Mahi to share her opinion regarding the topic. Mahi.
Okay, so let me ask you all a question. What is more important, education or to whom you are imparting that? So today, I take stand against the decision of reopening schools post-lockdown. So the first thing that comes to my mind is parents' opinion. Because there are a bunch of parents who want their kids to go to school and get the education they're lacking. But there is also another group of parents who do not want to risk their child's life and want the online education to continue. Another thing is the conflict between the teachers and the parents. This is related to the fees, because as we all know, the schools also have to pay teachers their salary. But they are also not getting enough money from the other end, and also they cannot pressurize parents, because as we all know, due to this lockdown, the businesses are also going down. Now, when we talk about the safety measures set by the government to be taken in consideration, the first most safety measure came out was Arogya Setu app. So as we all know, the government said it has to be in everybody's mobile phones. So the first thing that I would like to say is that, as we all know, in our school premises, mobile phones are not allowed. And the other thing is, even if we bring mobile phones to the school, this is another sort of distraction from studies. Now, when we talk about, as the government said, that if there is large number of students in one class, we can divide them in two shifts. One group of students will come in the morning and one group of students will come in the evening. But again, I would like to state the same point, that schools cannot afford another group of teachers for different shifts, as schools are getting thinner day by day, and also the fees is a bigger conflict. Now, when I talk about the school transport, as we all know that there are 3 zones, red, orange and green zone. Somehow the buses can still go to the orange and green zone. But what about the students who are staying in the red zone? As we cannot risk their studies as well. Also, it's not their fault that people in their area are getting contaminated. Now, when I talk about teachers, let me state a fact here that the government schools of India has told teachers to come to school in the first week of May itself. So that was far too early at that time. And also, we need to think about teachers. First of all, the schools are not able to, are not capable enough right now to give teachers their salaries on time. And this is also not, I'm not saying that it's school's fault, but this is what actually the new normal is right now. And the other thing is the teachers are handling their family and our education at the same time. They're providing us online education in this pandemic too. We should also respect them and their time. Now, when I talk about the quarantine good effects, it depends on the students itself. But also when I talk about the understanding, the quarantine gives you the independence of studying your favorite subjects. You can go in deep in what topic you like, and also it creates a good understanding between the student and the teachers. And also you can practice on your own and get to know your hidden talents more. Now, the most important thing is that I want to talk about is that I don't get this. People are not getting this, that COVID-19 is a chain. no matter what, first of all, I don't really agree to this thing that it is really possible to sanitize every snoops and corners of a campus. I do not really agree to this, but even if I agree to it at some point, what if the student gets contaminated outside of the school and then comes to the school next day? So what I would like to say is, here I would like to conclude that the knowledge we are lacking in 2020 can be regained in 2021, but the lives we lose in 2020 can never be regained. Over to you, Anurag.
Yeah, thank you, Mahi, for sharing those opinions. Now, with that, I'd like to open the Q&A section for all of the panelists. If any one of you would like to ask a question.
Yeah, I have a question for Adinath. That how do you situate the fact that students may stay in red zone and that might contaminate the school if they come to school exposing the virus to a large number of people? So what will you do to prevent that?
Okay. So first of all, there are a few things which can be done. Either it could be that they should not be moved out of the red zone. I totally agree with you on that part. But at the same time, just because they cannot come to school does not mean that nobody else should be allowed either, because there are people staying in areas where there are a very minimal amount of cases, minimal to no amount of cases, and they can easily attend school and regularly on a regular basis, and if not on a regular basis, then on an alternative basis, if they take all the precautions necessary. And in order to keep the people living in the red zone living in the red zone to cope up with the studies which are going on in the school, it can be done that the classroom can be broadcasted through online classes, which will help them cope up with the current situation going on in the class, and then the current topics going on in the class, which will not affect their grades in the late future.
Okay, fair enough, but still my opinion won't change. Over to you, Anurag.
Yeah, so Mahi, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I like to ask Adinath one question. Adinath, as you said in your opinion, that as we all know that this virus replicates and mutates itself really fast when it enters a living cell, right? So and also you said that it will take around 1 to 2 years to eradicate this. So don't you think if it takes around 1 to 2 years, so the virtual learning has to be the new normal?
I partially agree with that statement. As I said in my last statement when I was answering to Sehman, that the people living in the red zone have to stay away from the people from going into crowded areas and follow all the rules and regulations. But at the same time, you cannot compare traditional learning with online classes, because there is definitely a huge difference in the understanding of the students. And I would like to quote something that NCRT said, that they will be allowing one third of the students from class 8th to 12th to attend school, but only one-third of the population of the school, right? So what can be done is, the people who are getting considerably lower marks compared to the other students, they can be called into the school, and they can have regular classes, and they can have regular classes which will keep them up to date and help them improve their performance in academics. And the people who are better than average, who are above average in the same field, they can be called once in a while to clear their doubts, and this will basically help them stay in the same grade, because I agree with your statement that the lives lost in 2020 will cannot be regained in 2021, but the education can be. But at the same time, if a student loses a year of his or her education, it might take a mental toll. It might take a toll on him or her, and that might affect their mental health, which might affect their future performance.
Okay, so I would like
Okay.
to state one thing that even if the student is lacking 1 year behind, it's not only the student who is going through that. Whole of the world is going through this pandemic, and everybody must be understanding this point that it's not the student's fault if the student is lacking behind. And also one more thing, Adinath, okay, as we can divide classes and put them in the primary sections to give them impart them education, but what about the government schools who have really small buildings but they also have large number of students studying in one class?
Okay, so I feel Adinath, you're muted. Please check your mic.
Okay, so are you
Yep.
implying here that the number of students who will be attending that if they do not fit in the one third of the population of the school, are you trying to imply that? Okay, so if that's the case, if the people who are not scoring well is above the one third of the population of the school, what they can do is they can divide those into two batches. They can divide those people into two batches, and they can have alternate classes on alternative days. This will keep the teachers keep the teachers have the normal routine as they did before the lockdown was started, and this will keep the students occupied and in touch with education and the current concepts going on in the class. And coming to our next point, which was, can you repeat your first point once again? I was not able to hear it properly.
I just asked you one question that how would we manage the students who are in the large number of students who are studying in one class? That was what I was just asking you.
Okay. I thought there was something else. That's
Okay.
it.
Oh,
Yeah, so this brings us to so what Adi has said. This actually brings us to one of the very important news in recent times. I'd like to share that. So, a newspaper article recently stated that NCRT officials recently have said that one third of student strength from grade 8 to 12 can be called back to school in order to gain education. In that way, social distancing can be maintained and students won't be affected by coronavirus. So, I'd like to know others' opinion regarding this.
Yeah, so if NCRT official will call one third students, then what will happen to other students? And if they're also calling below average students, but who are above average students, they also need somehow support. And if they have decided to reopen schools for NCRT classes, 8 to 12 students post lockdown, then they should have proper rules and regulation for the secure safety and security, but still the social distancing part can't be ignored. After all, they all are student and this won't be 100% effective. And as they all will be excited to go to school after a long time and will be expecting to see their friends, so it will be somehow difficult to manage them. And as we all know that the country's economy is disturbed right at this moment, so there are many parents who can't afford high fees, and if the school will ask for tuition fee also, still there are many parents who can't afford that. So there should be a mutual understanding between the school and the parents um, for the fees part, so that they both can be comfortable, because somehow school also need money to pay their staff, because they have a responsibility, and not all schools are cashless schools. So um, this so still if they will open school, still parents will hesitate to send their wards to school.
Yeah, thank you, Simon, for sharing sharing that valuable opinion. Would someone else like to contribute to this?
Yes. So, as Saman said, that what about the people who are what about the other students? What about the other students who other than the one third of the population of the schools? So, say a student is scoring 80% in 80% on average, means that that student is a good student. But and if that student's 1 year's performance goes from 80% to 75%, it would not bother as much as a person who is scoring 50%, his performance going below 35%, because that will situate the fact whether they will be promoted to the next grade or not, which might affect, again, which I would like to repeat my point, which might affect their mental health. And social distancing, yes. So the fact that the economy of the country is very low, is taking a hit. Yes, I agree with your statement, but the thing is that there are government grants for people, for students who cannot afford education, and if the students is eligible for that, the parents can, and then the parents can apply for government grants, which can help them, proceed and get the financial support that they need. And if this is not the case, if they cannot get financial grants, they can, schools can do something about it, like splitting the fees um, into long-term facts. For example, like EMIs, they can split the fees into small segments, and the parents can can start paying it as soon as they are back assigned to their jobs, which will further not affect their financial condition by a lot.
Yeah, thank you. So now I'd like to summarize what both the teams have said. So Team A, in support of reopening the school post-lockdown, has stated that virus can't be killed, so we need to learn with it. Another important point that is a deciding factor stated is the affordability. Some students, some candidates might not be able to afford good internet connection. Also, if they're able to, there are too many distractions on the web, so that might lead to lesser gain of knowledge. What Team B, which is against of reopening the school, what they have said is life is much more important than knowledge. So the knowledge that is lost in 2020 can be gained back in 2021, whereas the life that is lost in 2020 can't be brought back in 2021. Another point stated is related to commuting. As we all are aware of that the whole country, states and even cities are actually divided into three regions: orange, red and green. So commuting from all three regions is not at all possible. So students are far away from this school. They would require transport. And commuting in red zone is not at all safe and possible. It is not allowed. Another deciding factor which Team B has shared is sanitization. The whole campus can't be sanitized. So that poses a great threat to a child's safety. With that, I'd like to conclude this event. Thank you all. Thank you for joining us in today's event. Thank you.